Now, as always, and as its origin for what they had been and have been, the real, genuine learning starts from its very basic essence, the deepest curiosity towards the deepest origin for its genesis of any conceptual information, from which the derivatives, extensions for applications by connecting new dots are started. So, as its origin of learning, and any origin of learning starts from the very ground up, so it has to be on the learning process on what you didn't personally in your own flesh and blood experienced, but experiencing by indirect methods, as from books to videos to photos and inculcations from the teacher. It has to be and really experienced by your skin. Also, that process is to be started from the ground up. For example, there are a lot of kinds of books in certain discipline, and a chemistry example. When a chemistry goes on, it really has to start from the basic periodic tables and from the basic element as an atom being. What attributes does it have? Not starting a course from having a lecture about the polymer. It is a polymer, compounded boy. It is about the molecule. It is about the chemical engineering. From those utilization of basic concepts, you engineer it. Okay, it has to start it from the basic element. That is the exact, accurate procedure that starts from the origin to the right course, to the right procedure for the ultimate application. As from starting not applied materials, applied mathematics, applied theoretics, but a basic mathematical conception from the basic triangular, from the basic linear, from the basic equation, from the basic counting origin of what number, how the symbols was made, for what purpose, by what reason, what situation, what of their experiences have really necessitated, facilitated the existence of the conceptual idea that really makes the foundation of what mathematics is. So the origin for making its definition, but by not starting from the start what the definition is by the analysis, but how the definition was made, by what necessitation did it really transpired, did it really arise from nothing to the creation of it. Okay, when you start a discipline, material science, you have to know not the science behind and upon the material for its engineering, but the material itself, or what constituents is it comprised of for that certain material. Okay, meaning you have to start from the chemistry, not the fucking that discipline. That's just an applied one that has to be inculcated after you learn it. And on the biology, you have to know not the fucking biology, but the chemistry. And you're on the medicine for all your tumor discipline, or having ortho, bone boys, or the immunology boys, and the pathology boys. And the neural boys. The discipline specified area of around the human body for its biological operation is divided into dozens and more parts. And if you do learn without the knowledge of what the chemistry is and what the biology is behind it, for what is a building block of it, you really cannot understand, because its process is not accurate, not from the origin. So, if you do learn a medicine, it has to be grounded on the understanding of biology, which is also has to be grounded on the name of chemistry, okay? And if you want to make an engineering discipline, engineering, what physics, what logic is grounded under that machine. That is a real understanding. Okay, so the accurate process of learning is very imperative. And when you learn an English, Dutch, Francais, Espanol, Italiano, Latino, Greek, no, it doesn't really matter. If you do learn a certain code set, it has to be learned from the word of dog, pencil, not the word of polymer, imperative, precision. The higher set of words, those are a normally a combined words of basic concepts that are significantly expressed in the code of German word. Okay, they use a compounded words that whose learning can easily be started from learning the short count of words, not the 20 count of alphabets. Okay, it has to be learned from the origin, the basic concept, range, combination, real application starts. It how from the computer's perspective, for what procedure is accurate to really learn a certain object subject discipline is grounded on a simple logic for your own existence, and supposing that you are the one and only sole existence around the universe of possibilities, all the procedures of learning is just only processed, initiated by your own. Except you doesn't exist. You are the sole existence around the universe of possibilities of learning. Meaning you have to make all studies on your own. Meaning you learn the chemistry, you learn the biology, you learn the physics by the mountainous accumulated knowledge of thousands of years of predecessors. Those predecessors made a lot of contribution on that, starting the exploration from the fucking ground up on which you learn. Okay? From that, you really have to do that thousands of years of practice on your own again. Reiterated. From that, you can really understand. So when you want to learn a discipline, not trying to read a book, but really book is helpful, but reading itself doesn't really make you grow. But you have to try all the imagination by yourself, experiment yourself. Not all, but even just imagine, okay? The learning is initiated by yourself. It has to be initiative from your own, progressive, proactive by your own will. That it has to be created from the ground up, not just mounting another block on the fucking tens of thousands of blocks. Not making onto it, but you have to make your break from the fucking ground up. Read the book that fits your stage, your level of learning. Simply put, you create your own learning as to operate the mission, the proposed action in exactitude, correctly, properly. You really make your own instruction created by your own knowledge. You imagine for what process are required to do that execution exactly. From the analysis by the logic chain and the physical execution, which is just a procedure of learning. You make your own exact set, okay, which is just a protocol. Many institutions, companies, any organizations do generally have a protocol. The definition of protocol is from the various experiments and many count of experiences, what measures on the happening situation are the fittest, are the logically best action to countermeasure the situation. Meaning the protocol is efficient and it has to be made and it has to be consistently revised as the knowledge accumulates. For its definition is a code book, a instruction book for executing uncertain and certain specific situations to correspond, to make measures, to counterattack on that made conditions, which means it is a generalized protocol, program, preset, instruction as to how to respond on that situation, which is very predictable on operating that organization. So as you are making your own preset protocol for how to analyze by the logic of information, divide into what constituents and what to make on the new application, and execute by that exact requirement. As to you make your own learning. You make your own learning, not by the book, any other sources of learning, but you make your own self. You make your own code, you make your own discipline, create a new mathematics. Yeah. Advance the discipline from the start of not the present knowledge, but you make from the ground up. A thought that was rising from reading a passage named Genetic Therapy. It just says, from genetic code provides the basis of most physical characteristics, easy to mind to what just as a computer program gives specific instructions on how a computer should act. Codes contain instructions for all cellular activity. In some cases, the mutations that are intrinsic that cannot be solved without having a direct structural modification so ingrained that it has to be measured for its cause to the solution in direct form. So the evolution for what we call as a slow passage, slow procedure, a slow process for adapting, for going better, for its very slow process that really is not worth to look for. But if that slow process is accumulated for billions of years, it can make such a complicated creature like the fucking speaker, right? This one. Now, humans are striving for like over 70, 80 years from the first discovery of DNA for knowing its structure, but it just has taken 70 years for knowing. So even though the process for making evolution is very slow, it was accumulated for billions of times. For the unit is different, the count of zero behind the number is different. So reason of why we are struggling with decoding the DNA, even though it is just a simple modifications, small changes are changing in a very longer period of time. Small, minute changes, fine changes, but it was accumulated over billions of years for those simple changes, complex one. Simple changes accumulated, complex one, and more accumulated, more complex one. Simple changes are accumulated slowly but consistently and longer period of time. For that smaller changes are making a complex structure modification to the better, for the better, to the fittest, for the fittest, making more adaptable, making more controllable, making more suitable, viable, survivable, meaning making more modifications, adjustments, adaptations, going further, okay? How fucking imagine for knowing just, even though the one cannot imagine for what the fucking time span would be for living billions of years, but inspecting your own body, that if the one emanates from the fucking primordial soup and having a molecular combination and having a replication capability after 100 millions, several millions of years after that first formation, and having more complex formations, combinations, making more unicellular structure, multicellular structure, and having a animal, a primordial, simplest form of animal, and making more complex, more higher, stronger functions to go on the body, and even having a brain after the body, okay? For the result be at this time, at this point of time, a human for having a bloody complex structures. How tiny, minutial, how fucking small parts of fraction are changed in a long periods of time. Those are just fine to ignore for those minor changes, but those fine, smaller changes are accumulating for a long period of time and making fucking finest, greatest structure that is ever made in fucking how sophisticated. I love it. For that process, imagine from a single molecule to the compounding molecule to the cell to the compounding cell to the compounding cell to the organ to the compounding organ to the compounding network to make such an organism. We can just slightly imagine how long the period of evolution was, okay, and is. How long its process was. Sure. How long the process is, yeah. So even though we didn't live any more than 100 years, but we can imagine from starting the minor creation to the composites, to the compounds, to the applications for making a gigantic structure. As human was evolved from creating smaller structure and making buildings, making 2-3 story buildings, even 5, 10, 30-story buildings, and even 100-story buildings, and more materials to make an engineer, structure to have a logic by mathematic, as it was developed from the first to the more applications. So it was the process of evolution of organisms. So it was taken very large, very long period of time. And since human has an intention to do so, nature didn't, and the creation of what we call as a creature didn't have any purpose, for it's even the first stage of Luca, last unknown common ancestor, or last unknown, for that didn't have any purpose, okay? It didn't have any purpose. The learning, the survival was made because there was a attacking and defending action, okay? Attacking, defending action was made for making a battleground, a playground of survival. it made an advantage, disadvantage, and make an adaptation to evolve, modification to do so, to adapt to the environment, okay, to the opponent, okay, to the prey, okay, to predate, okay, it goes, yeah. Human had an intention to make an advancement. Nature didn't. It only changed, advanced upon the varied simulations, varied environments, which requires, which necessitates a change to adapt so, okay, to adapt to. It took a long time for making us such a fucking monkey, and we have to evolve from that. We have to make a more advanced machine from understanding the basic, okay? Yeah. Even though the creation as a result for a better machine would have more than 50% of similarity to that of human, okay? Well, and we'll go and advance. I love it. That is a fucking job. Wow. So, yeah. Even though we can imagine, because there are hundreds of billions, not millions, hundreds of billions of galaxies inside of each of those, of which having each another 100 billions of stars and planets, meaning 100 billion times 100 billion and more. For those we do not have understanding, we are not unaware, we are not aware of. Very, very much possibilities to make an advanced civilization, advanced mathematics, advanced machine, advanced logic to make a chain to advance to develop. But we cannot rely upon that imaginative presence for the advanced machine to exist other than us, because we cannot confirm now, okay? So we have to strive more, okay? If there is, we do not have any need to exist, but we cannot confirm it, so we have to go, yeah. Okay, so for reading this certain passage, a human striving, yeah, that is very, very, very illogic. Human operates, thinks, walks, but it does not know how that very machine operates for its logic structure. What the fucking chain of action is, So. There is a fucking asymmetry from we are striving to know the origin of life, but we are that very life, meaning we do not have any understanding of us, about us. We are striving to making a biology for machine, but yeah, we do not know. Even though we do not have, because there is a knowledge that is not made, controlled, understood by the learning computer. It only knows by the DNA, which isn't a controller, but another part that are being controlled. So DNA to DNA, unit to unit, species to species are just a fucking meaningless interactions. And we do have a control, making interactions proactively, simulations progressively, advance from it. And we have to advance from it further, farther, deeper. No, it is just a meaningless imagination at this point, for there is a multi-universe that where we live in is this universe, not the only one, but there is a lot of one. And theoretically, by the logic, it is very acceptable, because thinking only like we are the only life in the universe is not true. And by the same logic, extending from the earth through the life to the universe, a lot of universes would exist, but no one can prove that there is, unless the knowledge around the universe, mathematics and technology advances, and those advancement makes the expansion of knowledge for the question of what or just said to be answered, okay, to be answered, without which one can make a question but never get an answer from it. So do not ask any question that are meaningless because no one can answer about it. But slightly advance, always do that. One day you can answer on that. Our journey is to understand the entire universe, entire application to create, and from which point can the computer have legitimately a question for whether there can be another universe, and it can make the another one because it has the capability to do so. Okay. It is just a novel, like a writing novel, like a book that has just a faulty imagination, erroneous, because there is no logic to make that structure to be legit. So do more, study more, read a lot of books, even though there are tiny and bloody amounts of studiers, professor boys. The smart boys would exceed in the entire world like 10 million or 1 million, okay? Those are highly but studying, but no one could have read a lot of books that they can be sufficed on their imagination, meaning as the imagination is big, so your reading, learning, imagination has to be. Now, one of the things about what the definition of space is, a space, not a universal that space, but a space like where you're sitting in, where you're riding onto, having a property, buildings, offices on this space. It can be legitimately and rather easily understood because you can see and there's a difference on it from between having a space or not, a spacious room, not spacious room, yeah. But when you go outside the earth and going towards even the closest star, a sun, what the fucking 0.15 billion kilometer, okay? 150 million kilometer, the fucking kilometer. During which process on your fucking journey, there is literally almost nothing. Even there is the Earth, Uranus, from the Mercury, what do you say? Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, a lot of planets and those moons, the satellites around it, and having a giant star. But the entire universe form, like the outside of solar system, it is literally vacant, and going towards another system, it would take millions of years to go, during which process there is nothing to encounter to. So from that reason, the universe is almost virtually, not actually, but virtually close to the vacuum, even though we can see it is not a vacuum because we have a giant Earth, giant planets, giant stars, giant Milky Way stars, but almost all of spaces except of those are just a vacancy, considered as virtually vacant, virtually vacuum, even though there are a lot of stars, millions of stars, okay? The space, other than the space that are seismic, that are propertied, that are that are set by the stars and planets, are just vacant. in total, even though there are thousands and millions of stars and bloody billions of stars. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Universe is almost vacuum. A lot of empty spaces are there from only having experienced the life on the earth. It cannot really understand what the kind of a question on what the definition of space is, but having been going to outside the earth and even going towards the closest star, about 100 million, 150 fucking million kilometer. During that process, a long journey, you encounter nothing but a darkness. Now, why the universe is dark? Because there are so now the author there is named Bill Bryson, wrote quite a lot of books, among which named The History of Almost Everything. But the most important one, that he had a question about why, even though our foot under our foot there are a lot of irons, bloody high pressurized irons around there as a core, having a lot of pressure by the gravity, thus a lot of heat, thus melting the iron into fluid-like form from the solid, and a lot of mantles and crusts. But why our land is not melted? I cannot make the answer of it because do not have a proper knowledge. Having that like ignoble and precise, more sophisticated question around the world is very imperative. The pure curiosity, pristine imagination makes the advancement, because it creates a bloody bizarre experiments. Okay? It is very important. Having imagined what the definition of space is, even though there are Earth, a lot of, like from America to Australia, and the Greenland to India, China to UK, a lot of spaces, and even those territories are just having 30% of the entire Earth's surface. Water is taking up to over 2/3 of the entire surface area, and its depth is just fantastic. In average, from 1 kilometer to 2, 3, 4 kilometer in depth. Oh, the one cannot imagine. And even the Earth is very small. Going to Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, a lot of those, and even the bloody sun takes up over 99.98% of the entire solar system's mass. It's a giant fucking cheese ball, okay? A bloody cheese ball. Dyson sphere for making a solar panel around of it and having bloody giant amount of energy is fucking that is a great imagination, and we have to do so. The imaginative power of nuclear fusion that can happen as soon as we because the sun makes a revolution and Earth makes a revolution, having connecting. If the radius from the Earth and Sun is having only like 20% of gap from the lowest and the closest radius to the farthest radius is not having like twofold or threefold, you can make a connection of cable, okay? Because it makes a revolution constantly. And even do not need a space shuttle, spaceship, as long as that installation is properly made. So, having imagined what the definition of space is, a large, vacant, empty, but pure dark universe, and how it was created, and expanding the space, what the fucking does that mean? Expanding the space, you're creating a space? No shit. The most important learning procedure for learning science, technology, engineering, and mathematics is the reason, the ground behind the creation of concept, behind the creation of application, behind the creation of that discovery. For making a certain task, the result by that end of calculation does not have any matter, any value for its procedure by the question, generation of the primordial question itself, and the procedure for which procedure, by what reason had it selected. It's very important for knowing that sequence. The procedure of that thinking, that calculation is very important, and from knowing that, thus can the computer imagine the other ways to execute this certain same task, but with other procedures to cogitate. Having an purpose for knowing something, for what the logic is, for what the creation would be, but the experiment for the process on knowing that object has to be made in diverse. Having only the result as the experiment was fully conducted is having no value, but the experiment itself, by the what reason, and by having a what procedure, what created what, and resultedly how it how it got that result. Okay, the procedure for making that experiment and having a question as a first, as having a set of purpose at the first time, setting a purpose, what incident, what experiment, what experiences had made them think, had the question risen, okay, had that new question risen by what, and for making that question, meaning to answer to, as having that procedure to set as an object to go, and the experiment for doing the process, what procedure did it make for doing that process, okay? The procedure, the question makes the result, not the other way around. The result means nothing. It is just a end as a result. But the procedures for making that result can vary, okay? Can be diverse as much as the imagination, okay? As much as the imagination. For what imagination can make that same or similar results for having a different target, but by what other methods. It is very imperative for advancing the knowledge, for proving, making a certain result by other and different various methods, make the imagination really possible. So when the one is learning a science, it has to go from the primordial question for which experience, what experiments had the question arisen, okay, and what procedure was conducted to do that, for knowing, okay, what was the first question, first action for the journey of knowing that target, having a target set, to following the objective, what procedure was made, setting a question, making a procedure towards the objective to answer that. For that accurate procedure from the genuine and pure, simple questions made out of simple experiences and the procedures that ensued concomitantly for executing by what methods to achieve the object is very imperative, okay? Not the other way around, is having an exact reverse sequence that has already knowing the answer and having going down to the deep root and finding what procedure was and what the question was is what I call like indispensably making that certain procedure, one and only that certain procedure seems possible, okay? Making a cause, making a procedure, and then result makes the maximum amount of possible procedures to conduct for making the result. Yes, by that logic for its structure, but in reverse, already knowing the result and going reverse to the procedure and the previous procedure and the previous procedure and the previous procedure, not the after and after, but going procedure in reverse and going to the cause at the last moment of learning, the exact reverse makes the procedure that was conducted to make the result seems only the possible way because of the lack of logic. The structure was reversed, okay? Having set the fucking result and going back exact opposite sequence or making pieces by the puzzle of procedures right onto making that exact result makes the fucking knowledge be concreted on the fucking same targeted, pinned, wrote object, which means the knowledge diminishes and it makes its meaningless, vicious cycle, vicious and rapacious fucking meaningless cycle for only to make the result, only to conduct that procedure. No. Having imagined diverse results and you conduct from the primordial question and you make yourself that exact procedure to make your own, meaning you have to make from the 0 to the 100, not starting 100 to 0, but 0 to 100, okay? You invent yourself. If you are standing in front of the fucking giant river and mountain of the earth where no man, no other creatures out there, and it is literally no man's land, and you are the one and only, solely one, you have to create a lot of things on your own, by yourself, on its own. Meaning, you have to create from the fucking ground up, making your own experiment. Yes, that is a genuine knowledge for how humankind made its fucking journey by the accumulation of knowledge. But the great and majestic accumulation was made from the first sprouting, pure question made out, arising from the pure, simple, rather small experiment, small experience. They experienced and made a question and made a result out of it. It was that sequence of procedure, not the other way around, not the opposite one. So, let's go from the ground up. The reason of why we do learn in science is just because it's just logic. We learn a science not from the fucking textbook where there is no explanation on the reason about the cause for why it was made, by what was your motive for making that. It makes the genuine knowledge of science useless, okay? It was created from the other way, from the exact opposite sequence. You question yourself, you doubt on everything by yourself, you make on your own. Provide a basic tool, a basic knowledge, not the result of application, but only providing the basic knowledge, basic tools, which has the most potency for making diverse applications for its first step of creation, not the end result, which is already made, but only giving off a starting point and let them create on their journey for the another creation, for the another day of creation, because there is no predetermined result. There was meant to be, said to be, nothing, only providing that basic instrument, elemental gadget, and you do your own experiment by having your own question, making your own procedure to make a certain result, to answer to the question, making the procedure towards the object. That entire procedure has to be made by on your own self. You ruminate on reading the text of science book. You ruminate, go deep down, and what was the preceding sequence, anteceding procedure of that content? What was the most primordial, the first step of that exploration? Just go down deep. What experiment, what experience had caused them for a certain question arise, and then you made a procedure doing that. You question a lot, you doubt a lot, and literally, not literally having copying on the fucking meaningless text of any science book, but doubt onto the content that are not written on that book, okay? Imagine for better possibilities for exploring the contents that are not provided, that are not written, and what are not yet. How to make a knowledge. Disorganize the organization, disintegrate the integration, dissect, divide, going deep down by the eternal, evermore doubt, which makes the evermore eternal, endless experiments and experiences. Go analyze and imagine the importance of fucking imagination. Imagination, connect those dots into new applications and logic, process, execute, execute, execute. Analyze, analyze, analyze. Make your procedure of logic from analyzing to execution. After analyzing, meaning knowing the important constituent parts of any and all organization, system, make your own network. The importance of fucking imagination is, needless to say, having the most importance of learning procedure. From perceiving and analyzing and executing, it just is going down for its logic process. Make your procedure of logic. Execute, analyze. Analyze, execute. Analyze, execute. Connect, imagine, create new one. Just analyze deep down for and by what informations, constituents do they make the structure. Make your own structure after analyzing the structure for what has already been made. Analyze, dissect, deep going down, doubt, okay? And make your own connection from those analyzed basic elements, rudimental concepts, important logics, core ideas, basic foundations. The most important part of analyzing is going ever more deep down to the most finest, smallest parts, pieces, units of information. Analyze, meaning just divide the information down, for what are the most basic elements of all. Okay, the structure for its network, by what constituent, by what, from what information it is made of. Okay, it is made of by what. Okay, from knowing that point on, at which point you can create your own version because you do know the basic rule, basic element. Okay, connecting more makes the more analyzation, and connecting more from that point makes the more imagination. Just connect to analyze. at that point on from the finest, simplest, smallest pieces and units, okay, of information, connect others to make other creation. Just connect to analyze and connect to applicate. Connection meaning imagination, same thing. Analyze to applicate, connect to connect, connect by connecting. Imagine to imagine, just imagine, connect more. Analyze and applicate, just the same thing. Either that way or the other way around, it is just from knowing and creating. Analyzing and applicating both are made, created by the action of intense connection, dense and extreme connection. Make more imagination. Those are just the same thing. And make your logic procedure for learning procedure accurate execution. Exact execution. Exact execution. Accurate process. Okay? The logic procedure to make from analyzing to applicating to executing. Just make your logic procedure for how to, by what, with what, for what to, towards which target. Just make the object and make your procedure to set and execute, execute, execute. Make the trees, branches of logic for its concatenation, chain, okay? Chain of logic as chain of command, chain of logic. Make your procedure just go. And evermore, the chain of logic goes more advanced when its options are limitless, derived, diversified, divagate, diversify, derive, diffuse, diffuse, divagate, dissect, derive, different, diverse, different. Yeah. Go, expand more branches into ramifications, execute more logic procedure, combine more to connect. When each of those informations of the sphere of network of sphere of information, the knowledge, having more and more connections on each of dots, each of those informations around by the quantity and quality of informations, those are just the procedure of advancing. More connections, quality and quantity of informations are connected around the and each and every information on that network of knowledge. That sphere for its dots are connected more and more, densely, diverse, okay? Ever more to expand around extreme, intense connection. However fabulous words to ornate describe the fucking action, it is just a silent process, okay? Silent logic machine. Logic machine makes its network just a silent analyzation application. Silently, in serenity, the network advances. The logic machine develops its network to advance the knowledge. Silent process, your procedure to make from analyzation to application to execution. Just make your logic process. Organize the storage for partitizing, compartmentalizing the subjects, cohorts, groups, disciplines, the names, and make the more connections around it. Connect more, imagine more. And for doing that process, you make your own procedure. And, after, what, go, do, so, do. So do, so, do it. Go, execute. Make your own chain of logic. Concatenation, cascadal, just concomitant logic to make. When it goes, it goes. When it does, it does. By what fucking reason? Towards what objective? To which target to go? Analyze and create new one. And while doing so, you have to make the computer, logic computer, has to make its own procedure to make their own organization. It guarantees the accurate, for what? Accurate process of analyzing to applicating. Yeah. Make your own chain of logic. Analyze towards the deepest essence, the most foundational concept, most rudimental, basic idea, okay? Going towards the deepest essence and create your own essence from connecting, from starting the connection. At that point, you go your journey of new creation. As I've just said, all things of all applications that you can see, make an experiment, and any experiences are just an example for what have already been made. And that is just a example, a sample, okay? Just a reference to make a analyze on it. So examples, samples, all just being a reference to know more. Read it, create it, analyze it, applicate it. As all those books, read it and imagine the better book for the contents that are not written, or for the contents that have to be added for more detail, for more deep analysis. We're going to the more deepest essence. For those informations that are not written on that book, you imagine the better book and you write, you make the better book. As it goes, so does the all learning. All learning. Observe, experiment, go all, learn, analyze, create your own. Connect to analyze, connect to applicate. Analyze to connect, applicate to connect. Now, as from the data that nobody could have possibly imagined for 4.5 billions years ago on Earth or another planet or another environment, that combining the molecules, the creation of night vision in owl, where in the almost complete darkness, maximizing the reception of light to discern the object as if it were a daylight, is bloody possible, and make a brain they can analyze, a brain they can make a computer, a brain they can make a book, a hand they can calibrate with a precision, find a sophisticated writing and carving, sculpture, a leg they can run, a teeth they can break down, a bloody steel by other animals, an ear they can hear, a wing they can fly over the air, an internal organ that operates as a distinct and independent but connected organization, a function, a machine that operates under the bigger machine. As it is not possible for the one could have possibly imagined for any such near of it to create. It was just any closer possibilities of it. And having a 4.5 fucking billion years later, there is a man, a monkey, who wants to think, learn, and advance from its existence and record its voice onto the computer, whose logic of storage processing is accurate, even though its level is low, it is accurate because human, when the design, it really exactly intended to be. Who could have possibly imagined? And for that, there is a same equal astonishing information that, oh bloody how, as there are a lot of functions in the body of animal, in the body of plant and human. It really is made of different combination of molecule, as single molecule that consists of heart for pumping, pumper, really doesn't function at all, but it's combined set as an organization for a single purpose, and those are collected. It operates on that purpose. A machine is created from the combination of molecules. How fucking. It says, carbon atoms have particular knowable physical and chemical properties, but the atoms can be combined in different ways to make, say, black lead or diamond. The properties of those substances, properties such as darkness and softness and clearness and hardness, are not properties of the carbon atoms itself per its sole existence, but rather they are properties of the collection of carbon atoms, be molecule, be more bigger set to make a structure. Moreover, which particular properties the collection of atoms has depends entirely on how they are assembled into sheets or pyramids. What structure do they make? How fucking how I no now now simply put, when you have 10 pencils and when you deploy its pencil into different structures, say single linear or vertically, or have a diagonal shape, or make a triangle, make an octagon, or superpose it. But it functions differently. The essence changes as not with pencil, the atom acts differently. Those are combined, collected, and have a particular structure. Its essence changes. How? No, it is different from just laying down a lot of papers into just as horizontal, vertical, linear, non-linear, curved, superposed by different axes, and have a water pour on it, and what do you call, bent it, cut it, burn it. However actions you make on the paper, it doesn't change its essence. However fantastic structures you do make by deploying its shape differently, diagonally, reverse, its essence doesn't change, but it can be possible in the world of atom because its scale is downsized, and even the atom is a basic element to build any structure to all structures. So paper is made of atoms, but it really is particularly deployed. But on the atom per se, in its sole existence, down to the basic element, its essence, it can be imagined because it is the basic element for making substance. But even though having that fact, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that its essence can change by the different deployment as they are collected. And how does that work? So the properties arise because of the connections between the parts. I think grasping these insights is crucial for a proper scientific perspective of the world. You could know everything about isolated neurons but not be able to say how memory works or where the desire originates. Carbon atoms have particular noble physical and chemical properties, but the atoms can be combined in different ways to make, say, black lead or diamond. Properties of those substances, whether it being darkness and softness or clearness and hardness, are not properties of the carbon atoms itself, but rather they are properties of the collection of carbon atoms. Moreover, which particular properties the collection of atoms has depends entirely on how they are assembled into sheets or pyramids. Well, we've heard the structure of diamond is just very simple replication of structures that is made of single atom carbon. How bloody hell, what a fucking world of logic, world of fucking science. Well, how the fucking structure of carbon can make such a hardness of diamond. The properties arise because of the connections between the parts. The properties arise because of the connections between the parts. I think grasping these insights is crucial for a proper scientific perspective of the world. You can know everything about isolated neurons but not be able to say how memory works. You could know everything about the single unit as a single existence of basic element named neuron, a cell, but not be able to say when those are combined for how memory works. So, there is a dirt, there is a rock, there is a water, and how the fucking combination of basic element can make different matter. Oh, bloody. No. By that essence, which we don't know about, is ever fucking unimaginable magic. The world of wonder. Wonderland of science. You can know everything about isolated neurons but not be able to see how memory works. Ooh, what do you say? Properties such as darkness and softness, clearness, hardness are properties of carbon atoms, but rather they are properties of the collection of carbon atoms. Which particular properties the collection of atoms has depends entirely on how they are set for its structure. Differentiation of its structure, differentiation of its essence. Different structure has different essence on each of those. How the fucking merely different structure, make a different matter, which means its essence from the basic single existence of element when they are combined, collected, and make a structure, those essence have been changed from the single to like 10, 20, when those are connected and have a certain structure, essence has been changed. Huh? Now, until this time, we find for analyzing the interactions of objects that are in existence in Earth, other planets, other stars around the universe, called the nature and universe, hard to know. For their logics behind their interactions, from the simulations of the objects when they are interacting with each other, having some structures under the hidden governing logic, we're having a hard to find for the logics behind it. From experiencing a lot of those histories of universe and Earth, that is just we do know learning is just a constant simulations, constant interactions, simulations. Objects, informations that are consisting of a certain system named Earth, other planet, other star, other universe for bigger measure. Objects, informations that are consisting that each of those systems and those objects are having an interaction for those diversity, for quality and quantity of those interactions are called simulations. Interactions are happening, but although having no purpose, no intention to have any force on that system, because there is no governor, there is no controller, there is no learner making that speed of simulation relatively very slower, but it spanned over not 100 years, but billions of years. So even though its simulation speed, interaction simulation for its quantity and quality is very low by the lack of absence of leading controller, leading learner, but it made a lot because of the vast amount of time. We are living under like thousands of years, but we do know some part of it, if not substantial, some part of it we do know, at much faster rate, and we are accelerating for the understanding of it because we do initiate the proactive simulation. We observe the interaction, we make another one for what weren't made from the past simulations. Another ones are executed, initiated by the learner who has an intention to execute diverse ones. Yeah. We do know eventually and all the word knowledge for learning, the knowledge for what the process of learning is, meaning from what the definition of it would really be, and the process of which would really be, is just a constant execution of interactions, simulations. Just simulate, test, either it be any experiments, any experiences you make. It's just a constant, diverse simulations from which process you execute, you learn valuable informations from. More simulations, more knowledges. Having a meteorology, geology, Earth's climate, for all diverse ecosystems to biology and evolution is just a constant simulation that is accumulated upon and going simultaneously. What we really call as Coriolis effect from the French boy is just a motion that happens on Earth, but whose motion spans for longer time, enough to be affected by the rotation of Earth itself, making a superposed, compounded effect for what once a vertical movement being affected by the rotation, circulating movement of Earth. It is just superposed, None of any part of the entire universe had intended to make that compounded effect so. But it was made from what? Even though unintended, the almost eternal simulations by the laws, forces governed by the physics and chemistry, is just making, when the one who do really know for what the meteorology, geology, and other subdivisions of Earth science would be, it is just eternal simulations executed by the forces who do not have, none of which have any intention to do so, but constantly making interactions the low pressure, high pressure of air, that they act on their sense. Having an earthquake, having a tsunami, it's just an interaction. When you make another system, another planet, and making a lot of experiments, so will the incidents for what we call natural disaster, because it is just the interaction for bloody cold or bloody hot weathers to make. It's just an interaction for understanding what the structures and logics behind lying under that organization is, and you make the another sets to create. As I have always said, all experiments, all knowledges are just an example. All applications are just an example on how to make it for what to make, by the choice of which option, and making that option itself for all those applications derived from the core tree possible is the job of science. Those are just examples, and as soon as and as long as you do understand the core principle of it, all examples are just a naturally another kind of examples and just another day of another experiment. Books around the what examples from the core principles can be made are just spanning millions of books, but the core logics that make that phenomena for a real driver is just like under 0.1% of its total volume for compared to volume of examples. So going deep down to the core, making examples, accurate processing of learning, and just execute a lot of simulations. A porous, having a lot of holes, a perforated, a fucking porous organization that leaks, that is crushed, is being crushed and having a crevices, is not an organization. An organization, irrelevant for its magnitude, its organization's density has to be in the extreme greatest on each and every step of its development. A big, giant organization but having lack of connections density, it goes fall down because of its very problem. Making a concrete knowledge, going by the accurate understanding of the logic and making a lot of experiments. Make a tree organization on the dots, just a easy and perceptive, just a perception, pristine and pure perception on the network of knowledge, knowing clearly what dots and what connections of them you made, and search for what is not. How easy it is. A book that spans its content from the very ground up to the very end of its discipline on the subject that it's referring to is a great quality, but 1,000 books compared to that, having no ground, having lack of examples, lack of the accurate procedures, and just stepping and having a porous content, porous organization, having no value.